She cleaned graves for coins, until she dug one that had her name on it. The brush scraped rust off the boy's name. Irene leaned in, palm pressed flat on the stone to steady her hand. The mother behind her let out a sound that didn't belong. To the living. Irene didn't look back. The sound came again, longer this time. She kept scrubbing. Dirt clung to the grooves of the carved letters. Samuel Dean, 2008-2024. A plastic flower wilted against the stone. Irene picked it up and tossed it aside. Irene! She froze. The wind didn't move, no branches creaked, just that voice, soft, close. She stood, turned. The mother hadn't moved. Her hands covered her face, shoulders shaking. Nobody else there. Irene stepped back. Eyes scanned the hill. Empty. Irene. Lower this time. Beneath her boots. She looked down. The dirt hadn't been touched, but something in it breathed. The mother lifted her head. He didn't even make it to 16. Irene stared at her a second too long. Nobody here ever does. She dropped the brush, wiped her hands on her skirt. I'm done. The mother didn't respond. Irene bent, picked up the tin can. By the grave. 6 coins rattled inside. She counted them twice, tucked them in her coat pocket. She turned to leave, then stopped. The grave beside Samuel's was fresh. No grass yet. The dirt was dark, soft, uneven. A shovel leaned against it, half sunk. At the head was a crude wooden cross. Her boots crunched over. She looked closer. 4 letters carved deep into the plank. Irene. Her breath caught. She touched the wood, still damp. She looked over her shoulder. "Clem!" she called. Silence. The wind returned. She stood there too long, hand on her own grave, her voice low now. "This some joke?" Nothing answered. She pulled the shovel from the earth. It came loose too easy, like something wanted it gone. The ground under her feet gave a soft sigh, cut to black. Irene gripped the marker with both hands. The wood was damp, chipped, rough against her palms. Her name stared back at her like it had always been there. "This a joke?" Clem stood 5 paces off, arms crossed, face blank. "Ain't mine." She held the plank up. "Who dug it?" "That. Ain't my shovel either. You think this is funny? I don't think nothing about it. Somebody carved my name. Irene, go home. You're tired." "I'm not tired. I'm buried." "Then stop digging. I want it gone. Then dig it out yourself." She dropped the marker, kicked the grave hard. The shovel tipped over with a thud. Dirt cracked along the edge. Her breath caught. Her eyes flicked to the handle of the shovel, old and splintered. Same shovel. Same graveyard. Same dirt. She saw herself 10 years younger, rain falling, her dress soaked, her mother's coffin sinking slow. No one cried. Just that wet thump of earth on wood. Clem stood there too, shovel in hand. Same coat, same silence. She looked back at him now. "You bury my mother here," he nodded once, "next to where yours is now." "What the hell does that mean?" He didn't flinch. "You ain't from the right side of the hill, Irene. People like you don't get told." "Told what?" "That the ground keeps track. I didn't ask it to. Doesn't matter. I didn't ask for any of this. You were born here." That was enough. She turned away, heart pounding in her ears. The grave still looked soft, like it wasn't finished, like it was waiting. Clem called after her, "If you're smart, you won't come back." She didn't answer, just walked slow down the path, her name still nailed behind her. Irene's truck rattled up the ridge, headlights dim, engine wheezing. The governor's house loomed above, stone, cold, older than the road that led to it. Yellow light filled the windows like watchful eyes. She killed the engine and walked up the gravel path slow, boots crunching. The front door creaked open before. She knocked. A tall man in a stiff coat stepped out. "We don't take visits after dark. I ain't a visitor. I cleaned his son's grave." His lip curled. "Still not a reason. I've got one." He paused, stepped back. "Wait here." The door groaned wider. Irene crossed the threshold. Same floorboards, same scent, damp wood and rotting paper. Governor Wilkes entered from the hall. Older than she remembered, but still sharp. Grey at the temples. No warmth in his eyes. Irene, last I saw you, you were 10, screaming. She didn't blink. Your father put her in the dirt, you remember that? He gave a small nod. The past stays buried here. Someone's digging it up. She reached into her coat, pulled out the photo, threw it on the table between them. A grave marker. Her name. Today's date. He stared at it long, picked it up with 2 fingers. His mouth barely moved. Where did you find this? Beside your boy. You think this is some message? I think someone wants me gone. He turned toward the window. That's not your name. No? He looked at her over his shoulder. That's your curse. Irene stepped closer. Then you ought to know who gave it to me. He didn't answer. She watched his jaw tighten. Tell me, she said. He turned back. Not tonight. I'm not waiting on tomorrow. Then you're walking into it blind. She opened the door behind her. I'd rather walk than kneel. The shack was cold and still. Irene lit 3 candles, set them along the window ledge. Wind scratched against the siding like nails. She knelt beside the floorboards, pried one loose with a rusted knife, reached into the dark gap. The ledger was there, burnt along one edge, warped by heat. She wiped the ash off the cover with her sleeve and opened it slow. Names lined the pages, faint, smudged. Some marked with symbols she didn't know. Her fingers stopped halfway through, her mother's name crossed out hard. Below it, a fresh line. Her own name, inked deep, still red. Her chest tightened. The flame nearest her sputtered. A whisper filled the shack. You belong to the dirt. She snapped the book shut, stood fast, breathing heavy. The sound was gone. She turned toward the door. Mama, what did you do? Lem's voice came from the corner. She hadn't heard him come in. She broke the pact, so now it's yours. What pact? Same one every woman here makes. He stepped forward into the candlelight. His face looked older tonight. Bleed. Quiet. Die quieter. She stared at him. She didn't agree to that. She tried not to. They made sure she paid. Irene looked down at the book, still in her hand. You knew. I lit the candles after. That's all I could do. I was a child. You still are. I ain't doing neither. He nodded once, like he knew it before she did. Then you'll need more than fire. She didn't speak, just dropped. The ledger back into the hole, replaced the board, and blew out the candles one by one. The office smelled like sweat and old wood. Irene stepped inside, door creaking behind her. Sheriff Harlan sat behind his desk, boots up, sipping coffee like, He'd been waiting. You been snooping. I got a grave with my name on it. Thought you'd want to know. He didn't blink. Maybe it's just prophecy. She stepped closer. You think I'm afraid to die? He set the mug down. No, you're not afraid to die. You're afraid of why? He pulled open a drawer, slow, slid out a photo, laid it between them, her mother, pregnant, standing next to Governor's father, not smiling. She stared at it, jaw tight. He leaned back. That man wasn't your father, neither was mine. You think I didn't know? I think you know just enough to burn. Maybe I should. You marry my boy and nobody has to remember that. She picked up the photo, looked at it, like it might bleed. Your boy's stupid. He's obedient. I'm not. That's why this offer's short-lived. She set the photo down hard. You threatening me? I'm offering you peace. She laughed, cold, sharp. This how you buy silence now, with weddings and lies, with land, with safety. I've never been safe. He stood, walked, around the desk, close now. You walk out of here saying no, you'll be digging for real. I already started. You don't know what's down there. I do. He studied her face. You sure? She nodded. It's you. He stepped back. Then I guess we're both buried. She turned to the door. Difference is, I'm still breathing. He didn't follow, just picked up the photo. Again, stared at it like it was a map to something long dead. The field was bone dry, nothing grew there, not even weeds. Irene stood barefoot, dirt hot beneath her heels, eyes closed, wind passed through, soft and empty. She didn't move. She saw herself young, 6, maybe 7, knees bloody, running from something not in the frame. Her mother's voice behind a locked door, shouting a name that wasn't hers. Then silence. Then always silence. She knelt slow, hands in the dirt, dug with her fingers. The earth gave easy, like it remembered her. She pulled the ledger from her coat, pages still warped, edges scorched. She held it one last time, thumb pressed over her name in red. She dropped it in the hole, poured oil from a rusted jar, lit a match. The fire caught fast, a voice drifted low, not hers, not Clem's, somewhere between wind and memory. If a woman burns the past, the earth will answer. The flame rose sudden, too high, too loud. Irene didn't flinch, just stood watching. Smoke curled like it knew her. Heat pressed against her face, but she didn't step back. Her breath stayed even. Then came the whisper, "Don't dig too deep, you'll find yourself." It came again, closer. "Don't dig too deep." She answered it. "Good." The voice fell quiet. "I'm tired of looking." The fire snapped, turned blue for a second, then died all at once. Nothing left but ash and a hole. Irene brushed dirt over it with her foot. No marker, no prayer. She stood still again. The wind passed through. Nothing grew there, not even weeds. The churchyard was still, sky black, air thick. Irene moved slow across the gravel, crowbar in one hand, flashlight in the other. The well sat in the far corner, stones sagging, covered in rotted boards. She knelt beside it, jammed the crowbar. Under the lid, wood cracked, nails groaned. The cover peeled back with a dry moan. She held the flashlight over the mouth and let it fall. It clattered once, twice, then stopped. The beam landed crooked. White bone, lace fabric. A child's shoe, small and split at the sole. She leaned over the edge, breath shallow. Clem's voice came soft behind her. "That's where they kept us quiet." She turned fast. He stood under the archway, coat buttoned wrong, hands loose. "Who buried them?" "Same men you scrubbed stones for." She looked back down. The flashlight flickered. A rosary dangled from a ribcage. "You knew. I was just a boy. And later, I lit candles. That all." He didn't answer. "You could have dug them out. They'd have buried me next. You're still breathing." "Barely." She turned toward him. "You let my mama go in blind." "I told her to stop." "She didn't." "No, she didn't." Irene gripped the edge. "Of the well, then light one for me." Clem blinked. She stared at the bones. "I'm not dying quiet," he nodded. "Then you better run louder than the rest." She looked at him once more, then back at the dark mouth of the well. Wind moved around them like breath. The flashlight buzzed out. Total black. She didn't flinch, just closed the lid slow and walked back toward town. Her boots left prints in the dust, clear as scripture. The morning was pale and dry. Irene walked back through the gate, boots dragging slow through gravel. She passed Samuel Dean's grave, the tin flowers still wilting in place. Her eyes found the plot beside it. The marker was different now. Her name, gone. In its place, carved fresh into the same warped plank. Wilkes. Adeline. She stared at it, jaw set. Clem's voice came from behind. "You know who that is." "I do. Governor's mother." "I know." He stepped up beside her. "She took the pact, then she broke it." "She paid?" "Not yet." Irene tilted her head. "So she's next." Clem didn't speak. She stepped forward, reached for the shovel leaning against the post. "Irene." She didn't stop. "You dig her up, you don't come back." She gripped the handle. "Maybe that's the point. You sure you want to see what's down there?" "I've seen worse." "This ain't worse. This is where it starts." She looked at him. "Good. I've been waiting." Clem watched her a long second. "You won't be able to bury it again." She turned back to the grave. "That's not the plan." He let out a breath, shallow and thin. You think she's dead? No, Irene said. I think she's hiding. And if she ain't, I'll give her reason to be. Clem took a step back. Then I'll pray for you. Don't. Why not? I want her to hear me coming. She drove the shovel into the dirt. The soil gave like it always did, soft and slow. The wind shifted. The name on the marker seemed to watch her. Clem stayed silent. She didn't ask him to stay. She dug. The cellar door creaked open with a slow pull. Irene stepped inside, held her breath. Stone walls closed tight around her. The floor sloped downward. She followed the dark. Cold air wrapped her arms. At the end was a door, thick and locked. She pulled a small key from her boot, slid it into the padlock. It clicked. She pushed it open. The room was narrow, shelves lined. Both sides, bones wrapped in cloth, stacked neat. Names etched on old brass tags, some first names only, some initials. She stepped closer. Her fingers ran along one. Irene, scratched in deep. The cloth beneath still clean. Her jaw tightened. She didn't touch it again. You weren't supposed to see this. She turned. Governor Wilkes stood in the doorway, tie loose, hand on the frame. Neither were they. He stepped inside, slow. Your mama saw it too. She scream? He nodded. Not for long. Then you better pray I ain't her daughter. I did. She stared at him. You don't understand what this place is, he said. I do now. He moved closer. You can still walk out. No, you can't. She reached back fast, slammed the door shut, lock snapped. He yelled once, pounded the wood. She turned and walked up the stairs. No rush, no fear. His voice followed, muffled. You think this ends with me? She didn't answer, just stepped into the daylight, shut the cellar door behind her and didn't look back. The morning was grey and hushed. Irene knelt by the stump of wood where her name used to be. A new marker lay across her lap. She dipped the brush, slow red paint thick in the jar. Her strokes were steady. Here lies the silence of men. She stood, lifted the board, hammered it into the same ground that once tried to claim her. The wind picked up but didn't bite. Behind her, feet shuffled through the grass. One by one, women from town gathered, quiet, no words yet, just watching. One of them stepped close, younger, eyes wide, voice barely breath. They'll come for you. Irene didn't turn. Then they'll come for all of us. The woman looked down at the marker, said nothing more. Far off, a creaking sound stirred the air. From the churchyard, the well. Water began to bubble up over the stones, slow at first, then faster. It spilled down the side, dark and thick. No one moved. Irene stepped back from the grave, hands at her sides. Her face was calm. The women behind her stood taller. The water from the well spread down the hill, soaking into the dirt. Sliding toward the graves, voiceover even and low. If you bury truth, it grows teeth. Irene didn't flinch, fade to black.